PharmaVentures, experts in deals and alliances.
Hello and welcome to PharmaVentures Insights here in Berlin. In silico drug discovery has been around for a little while and was once hailed as perhaps the next big thing in generating new and innovative medicines. It's been a few years since then and maybe it hasn't fulfilled the promise yet that we thought it might. Here joining me on the show today is somebody who's going to tell us actually how it can play a role in innovative R&D. Ray Barlow of e-Therapeutics, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adrian.
So Ray, you're the Chief Executive Officer of e-Therapeutics and you joined the company about 6 months ago.
That's
so
right.
Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about, well, maybe what interested you in e-Therapeutics and made you join the company and what e-Therapeutics is doing.
Sure, absolutely. But prior to this, I was actually working with the world's largest biotechnology company, and as part of that role, we had a search and evaluation function which looked around the world for different technologies. And I really felt in that role that the next innovation in the biotechnology space is going to be the interface between informatics and biology and genomics. And I think e-Therapeutics is extremely well placed in that space, and the reality is that we've been working away for the past 4 years or so on a suite of technologies which I think are quite unique in the industry. And in some respects, we weren't able to do 4 years ago what we're able to do today, and I think the time now is possible to deliver on some of the promise which as you mentioned, has been around for a period of time.
Because it was hailed as a great thing, understanding the chemical space. Everybody said this is actually too big for us to understand. So to harness in silico power to do that better and find drugs that nobody else would ever find was hailed as a big thing. How is e-Therapeutics doing that? Because we've heard about it and there's been a lot of work going on.
Yeah.
You have a platform, okay? Yes?
That's correct, yeah. So in terms of, why are we doing this? So obviously there's a big productivity challenge in the industry. R&D productivity is going down, the cost of developing medicines is going up, the time associated with the development of those medicines has been pretty stable over a number of years. And also there's been some very significant failures in late stage. So what we're doing at e-Therapeutics is actually to look at the biology in a different way. So our platform is taking biology, translating that biology through some sophisticated computational techniques which I'll describe, into chemistry. And essentially what we're doing to do this is to have a suite of different technologies based upon big biological data, computational power, advanced analytic techniques, machine learning, artificial intelligence. And what we're able to do is to translate trillions of bits of information in terms of biological data sets into chemical space which should have utility in the clinic and should have utility in further development. So the technology we term network-driven drug discovery. It's been enabled by advancement in network science and enabled by some sophisticated computational techniques which we use to analyze networks and the biological representation of disease as a network.
So you mentioned artificial intelligence and genomics, and we all know that genomics certainly has come more to the fore, and artificial intelligence is just gaining popularity. You're building those capabilities into your platform also? Well,
that's right. We use artificial intelligence as a tool. Essentially, we have a suite of artificial intelligence technologies, ensemble approach. But basically, what we're trying to do is to use the ability to analyze trillions of bits of information and translate that into small molecule therapies.
And what does it deliver? What's the big benefit out of using your approach rather than conventional approaches that everybody else uses?
Well, the good news is that technology works. So we've actually applied it in 12 different areas now. So we've taken 12 very diverse sets of biology, used the platform to create 12 different sets of small molecule leads in different areas of disease. But the actual technology delivers a small molecule output. And we've proven that works. We have proven now with the programs that we're taking forward ourselves that we've got assets which are differentiated from things in the clinic. They have better efficacy, for example, in complex phenotypic cell-based screens. Essentially we've proven now, I think, that you can use this in silico approach and translate that into something that looks like a medicine and behaves like a medicine.
So are you jumping the sort of hit stage of discovery and you're going straight to lead? Would that be fair, or there's still much to do?
What we're definitely able to do is to expedite the journey to quality lead. So traditionally the industry has taken a high throughput approach and a lot of experimentation in terms of the assays that are around that. What we do are trillions or millions of experiments in silico to get us to a hit point, which we know is going to be effective in a challenging screen. So I think we're getting more quickly to a high quality output and enables us then to go into the subsequent part of lead optimization and obviously then into sort of subsequent preclinical work.
And because you're applying your in silico tools to the problem, does that mean it should have an easier, quicker, cheaper ride through development and into a real drug? Or is that
certainly we're compressing the front end of that. So the experience has been on projects where we had no prior knowledge of the biology. For example, working in partnership, you would get that knowledge much more quickly, but we can go from concept through to high quality lead, which is better differentiated from what's on the market within about a 9-month period, which is very, expedited in comparison to sort of typical 24-month period. And the beauty of the technology is because we're addressing biology in a different way, the promise is that we will have compounds which should act, more efficaciously in the clinic. And of course, as you're well aware, the big issue has been, throughout time, that, compounds that have been developed using traditional target-driven approaches have gotten all the way to phase 3, millions upon millions of dollars spent on them, and they failed, in phase 3, despite all of the, conventional wisdom and all of the knowledge around, exquisite targets. They just don't seem to work when we get them into a human and we get them into a complex setting.
So how are you exploiting the platform as a business? Is this a service or are you developing your own drugs?
Well, we certainly add value, I think, to the overall spectrum of the drug discovery process. So what we're doing ourselves is to take the technology, the platform, and we're actually using that to develop our own drugs. So we have a number of programs, 2 programs in the immune-oncology space, and we intend to take those further forward in preclinical development and to use those as out-license and opportunities, which the revenue from which we would use to propagate the business model moving forward. On top of that, we've created this platform now, it works, and what we want to try and do is to work with companies in the space to look at areas of biology. So for example, we've got some really good ideas around fibrosis, we've got ideas around tumour microenvironment, and essentially what we would like to do is to work with companies, and that's why we're here in Berlin having those discussions to take those through to opportunities to create new drugs. So it's not a service model, it's creating intellectual property, it's creating value, but I think we've got a different way of addressing this problem, that the industry faces.
And you mentioned immuno-oncology, they're very busy, very crowded space. Did you consciously go after that because it's kind of where the money is right now, or is it just because it was a challenge? Or what about other areas, CNS or other intractables? Are they in your focus?
Well, I mean, part of the challenge of a platform is you can apply it in many different directions. And the immuno-oncology space was driven by a very sort of detailed, sort of systematic assessment of new projects. So what's the commercial opportunity? Who else is active in the space? What assets do we have? What data do we have? How differentiated are they? I think that, for example, with the checkpoint signaling modulation project, which we've got, which is all about trying to re-engage T cells or reawaken T cells once they get exhausted, or also expand the patient population. Our view is that that's an area that we can license fairly quickly because there's a lot of interest in that area and the science is not that evolved. So there's an element of taking the resources we've got, trying to focus those on areas which are of maximum commercial interest. But we have, for example, projects in neurodegeneration, we have projects in inflammatory disease, which we've put not necessarily on hold, but we're not putting our incremental resource behind, and we're having discussions around, is there an opportunity to work with companies on those assets to take them forward from the point that they are now.
And finally, you've been in the role 6 months now, you've done a thorough sort of review of the business and focused it in the areas it needs to be. What's the long-term future for e-Therapeutics? You're a public company, so there are certain constraints, but where do you see the company going?
Well, I think we're at the right point, at the right time. I think now, we've got a more focused business. I think we're allocating our resource in the right areas. I think the technology that we've got has been validated and proven. I think the conversations that we're having, with potential partners are encouraging. So I think that overall, I think the future is rosy, but we've got to work hard to deliver that. We've got to work hard to deliver our own discovery programs. And we've got to work hard to articulate, what we're doing and why it's different. But we're fully focused on that. Got a great team and got a multidisciplinary team, that now is, behind the vision, and we're excited about the future ahead.
Well, Ray, we'll look forward to you coming back maybe in a year or so's time and telling us how the company's progressed and your technologies are bearing fruit.
Delighted to do so.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
For more information about PharmaVentures, visit our website